Hi, I'm Celeste and welcome to Find Your Purple. Well, last night I volunteered for a local Rotary Club in what they call their annual Sip and Savor. And it was wine tasting and all different kinds of barbecue, local barbecue companies. And as you know, I am a plant-based eater, so don't eat any animal products now. It's been about 16 months or so, and it smelled so good. But someone was asking, why I wasn't eating the ribs and all of that, and I usually just say I'm vegan because people seem to have heard of that. And we got talking about why, and I don't push it on people, but sometimes people will ask, not necessarily they consider it, but they're curious, if nothing else. Well, the funny thing was, it wasn't but 3 or 4 days earlier, someone got talking to me about my becoming a believer after all these years of not going to church. And I decided to sit down today and write up some similarities between the two in my life experience. Now, I'm not saying becoming a vegan is as important a decision in your life than becoming a believer. And I'm not saying you have to be a vegan to be a believer to be a vegan. None of that. I'm just saying, in my experience, especially since it was just over a year ago, I was a happy dairy and meat eater person, and I was not reading the Bible. So both changes happened almost overnight, and that's part of the similarities. So I wrote down 10 things that I felt were similar between the two. Again, my experience, not everybody's. The first is they both took me by surprise. One day I was eating prime rib as my favorite meal with a stuffed potato with sour cream and cheese and bacon bits. And the next day I got talking to someone about being a plant-based eater and the benefits of it. I started doing research and I went cold turkey. So it was a very quick, same thing. 40 years I'm not really going to church, and one day I'm not reading the Bible, then suddenly I decide to read it, don't like it, and then a few weeks later something clicked, I guess, in my heart, and now the Bible makes sense to me. Now I'm on my second read through. So they both happened fast to me, and they both took me totally by surprise. Number two, it makes you look at the source of your belief. You have to figure out why you believe what you believe. In the whole food plant-based diet that I'm on, I thought proteins had to be from meat, fish, chicken. I thought calcium had to come from dairy. I thought starches like rice, potatoes, and sweet potatoes were bad for you and would cause you to get fat. I mean, it was a whole different way of thinking than what I think now. On the spiritual side, on the religious side, I was against church. I was very anti-church structure. But I did believe in God and I did believe in Jesus. So it made me step back in both cases and kind of pare down, why did I believe what I believed? And then started doing research and kind of was able to peel off some of those layers. But again, I was 62 before either of these changes even came on my horizon, let alone in my life. So I had a lot of peeling back to do. And the third thing was that kind of ties with it. There's tons of experts out there. I thought cheese was necessary for strong bones, so I fed the kids cheese on everything. I put it on their broccoli, I put it on their potatoes, I put it on pretty much anything I cooked for them. And I centered the meals around the fish and the meat and the chicken, where now I center it around the starch. So it's, again, a totally different way of thinking, and there are experts out there that will talk about the Atkins diet, paleo diet, keto diet, all of those, and you kind of have to go back to the studies that they show back from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 70s, and really challenge what you believe. I think being on Google, it's a curse and a blessing. You call things up and you think, oh, well, it says it here, so it must be true. And a lot of them, the lobbyists, are the ones putting the information out there across different sources, and we're just sucking into it. On the spiritual religious side, there's just a lot of people preaching a lot of different things that the core doctrine isn't really, in my mind, the right one. So both of them have their false prophets, if you will. See, the fourth one is you can't just read about it. You have to commit to it if you want to see a change in your life. Now, in veganism, you can look at the plant-based diet process and read all the studies and read the books and read the recipes, but you can't expect a change in your body and your health unless you actually commit to it. You can't commit this much. I mean, it's you can ease into it. I'm not saying, everyone would want to do it overnight, but you can't expect this much change to make a whole life difference. And yet, if you go all the way, there's examples after examples of people whose lives have been changed. Same thing of believing in God. You can't go one day, I'll do this, but I still want to cheat over here, or I still want to be mean to people over here, or you have to do it and make it a part of your life if you expect either of them to make a change. See, number 5, the more time and effort you put into reading it and studying it and looking at the history of it, again, both sides, the plant-based diet as well as your faith, the more it starts to make sense. You're seeing more and more examples of where it was proven to be true, and then the more it makes sense, the more convicted you get it is the right way, and the easier it is to stay on that path. 6. This one is prior to me switching over to the plant-based diet and becoming a believer, those two sets of people were not my favorite people. I was pretty judgmental in that I thought many of them, and maybe it was just those I came across, but they were in your face, they were judgmental, they were self-righteous, they were self-promoting, and I kind of painted everybody with the same brush. So I wouldn't have wanted to have a conversation with either groups of people because I just didn't find them to be anyone I'd be interested to being around. I find it ironic that it's 2 major life changes I made within a few months of each other, and there were 2 things that a year earlier I was pretty much against and never thought I would change my ways in either of them. So who knew? Okay, the 7th one, it's not easy. Many places you go, books you read, TV shows, movies, and all of that, restaurants, social events, both of them can be hard for someone who's eating plant-based. Like going to the Rotary event, it was, barbecue. And you're in Texas, it's barbecue. And some restaurants in Texas, don't offer vegan options. So you kind of have to work to find something. And spiritual, all of those sources have a lot of things that aren't consistent with what I believe. And so you do have to make changes in your life. And it's not necessarily easy to socialize in the same way you used to. So, and the other thing is, like, if I go to a potluck or whatever, I always bring something, that I can eat so I can make my meal of it, because you don't want to be a hassle with people. Because again, I used to go to things, if there was someone, which there really wasn't very often, who didn't eat things, I would, roll my eyes and think, God, can't they just eat it? I mean, just shut up and eat it. But I understand now, when you're committed to the process, you don't want to just shut up and eat it. If I've gone 16 months without eating meat, I don't want to sit down and have a turkey tetrazzini when it's full of cream and turkey, and if I was going to choose to go off the diet for that, I'd pick some better meal. I'd go back to prime rib. The next one. You like hearing and sharing stories about successes or people who you can really admire that have that same belief. That's more fun than it used to be. Number 9, it will change your life. Either one will change your life. It'll change your health, and in big ways and in small ways. So, and last but not least, once you're committed to being a plant-based eater and being a believer, you want your friends and family to join the journey. You really do become convicted it's the right way to live and the healthiest way to live. And looking at the health studies, and how bad the health is going, especially in the United States, you want everybody to join that path. And then you think of everlasting life. When you become a believer, you're wanting everyone to join you there. So I do find, yet my friends and family, I have to be careful because they'll pretty much tell me to shut up if I try to pontificate. And I have to remember, I was 62 before I even opened my eyes to these two changes. So I can't begrudge people who are 20s and 30s and people in their 40s and 50s. I mean, it took me this long. So, but I do hope some of them will make the changes in their life. So that's it for today. As always, grab a cup of tea, sit back, and let's start sharing. Until next time, bye-bye.